Hey guys, this is Carrie, and in this video we're going to be updating our robot interview project so that it has the functionality that we designed it to have. Alright, so a couple of things. I'm going to open up my JavaScript cheat sheet, and you'll notice that I've done a little bit of reorganization here, labeling where the material came from. We're going to be using some of these things today, but I just wanted to highlight which project it came from. And you'll see that there's a couple of new ideas with where the material is being introduced, or what material is being introduced in the robot interview projects. All right, so then also we'll have the REPL.it page open here, and I'll go to my REPLs. Mine is getting a little bit out of control because every time one of you guys gives me the join link, it adds it to my REPLs as well. But I think that this is my robot interview. Alright, so now a couple of things. Hopefully you have your own robot interview, and to remind you of what this looks like, we can click this thing to open it in a new tab. Hopefully you have your own. If you don't, I'm going to share mine with you. But regardless of whether you're going to use mine or whether you're going to use your own, and the reason why I'm sharing mine is I just don't want people to fall further behind. I want to keep this as a separate project from designing the graphical user interface. So the way that we're going to do that is this setup, and this is really key, so make sure you do this instead of just editing right away. You're going to click this box here, and I'm going to ask you to fork the project that you're working on. So whether you're using mine or your own graphical user interface, please fork it. Now what a fork will do is it will create a divergence between this project and a new project. And we're going to leave this project as the non-functioning graphical user interface. And then we're going to create the next one, which will be the graphical user interface that functions. So you can see that it's version 1 of it, which means it's a new file. If I go back to REPL.it, you'll be able to see that now I have two versions of it. I've got this robot interview 1 version, and then I also have down here the original one. But this is a little bit confusing of a name, Robot Interview-1, so we're going to change the name to Robot Interview I don't know, Functional. Cool, cool, cool. All right, time to start. Oh, let me just close this down because that will confuse me. I'll be changing one of the things and it will not be updating because it's the Robot Interview versus the functional one. All right, so now we've got this thing open and we're ready to go. So ideally the functionality that we want to have is we want to be able to type in our name, Carrie, and when we send our name, we want the robot to respond here. So it looks like the first thing that we're doing sounds very similar to the soundboard to me in some ways, is that we're interacting with certain elements on the web page. So whether I'm going to be typing here and getting a value from it, this is one element we're interacting with. This button, something that we're clicking, this is another element that we're interacting with. And finally, these placeholders are a third type of element that we're interacting with. And every time we interact with an element, similar to when we style it with CSS, we have to select it. So I'm going to go into the JavaScript here. Actually, let me just make sure one thing. Let me make sure that the JavaScript is linked in okay. So I see the JavaScript down here at the very end of the HTML, right before the closing body tag, so the JavaScript should be linked in. I'm just going to do an alert here to make sure that the JavaScript is linked. We'll delete this right away, but I just want to make sure it's working. All right, so JavaScript is linked. So basically what that tells me is that the JavaScript is, this code will run when we run our web page. All right, so starting off, what we want to do is we want to be able to select all of these things. So my organization is going to be, rather than do this group, this group, this group, I'm going to select all of the inputs first. And if we're going to select all of the inputs, then all of the inputs need an ID. So let's give this ID equal to, I'm going to do name field, and make sure you have closing quotes on both sides. This one is going to be secret field, because this is the one where it's like, tell me a secret, creepy robot. And I'm using the word field here, like a field in a form field. Which is a common thing that you might see. Okay, and then here, this input is going to be the what is this? Age field. So this will be the ID of age field. All right, cool. In addition to selecting those inputs, well, actually, maybe let's pause for a second and go to the JavaScript and do this. So I'm going to give myself a comment, select the input fields. So when we select these input fields, I'm going to say let's name field. And now this is the, actually, I'll show you how you can do this with JavaScript. Cheat sheet here. If you forget how to select things, we did that in the last project. So to select them, you can just copy and paste this thing right here. Let me just give myself some more room here. I don't really need to see the project because I've got it open on the other side. So I'm going to say let input field, and that's going to be a variable name that we make up here. It just so happens I think it's a good idea to make it agree with the ID which we're selecting it. So we're going to do select the input field with hashtag. Oh, it's not input field, right? It's name field. Select it with name field. Let me just make sure I got that right. I'll go here, index. Yeah, it was name field before. Yep. All right, next up is secret field. So we'll use some copying and pasting. And some copying and pasting. So this one, I think, just making sure it's secret field and age field. So these will refer to the actual boxes on the web page. I'll show you that in a second. I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay, so these input fields right here, these refer to the actual field right here. It's the whole thing. It's not the answer, so it's not carry. It's actually this whole blue highlighted element on the page. All right, next up, what we're going to do is we're going to select the buttons, and we're also going to select the output fields. Okay, so to select these things, we also need to give these IDs. So kind of going into the standard procedure here, this will be ID equals name button. This will be ID equals secret button. And I see that I kind of made the inner HTML of this send password. I'm going to change that to send secret now. It's been bothering me every time I look at the page. Okay, and then this one will be the age button. And notice that I'm trying to be consistent in my labeling here. It's like which question it is underscore button, and I think that will help me to remember here when I go back to my script tag to select the buttons. I'll use another copying and pasting. This is going to be name button. So let's see, another and another secret button. Oh, hashtag, right? Because we were selecting the thing with the ID of secret button. And then here this will be age button. And here we go. Age button. All right, so we've selected the input fields, we've selected the buttons. The last part of the functionality is to select these output areas. So let's do that one more time. This is a super common pattern here. So these have a class, and we use that class to style them, but we also want to give them individual IDs so that we can output specific information into those. So I'll call this name output. I'll call this secret output. Whoa. And I will call this age output. All right, cool. Time to do that same thing, right? Just like with CSS, we have to select it in order to use it. With JavaScript, you've got to select it in order to use it. So let me do that one more time here. And let's say that it's not age button, it is name output, I believe is what we called it. Let's see. Name output, cool. Secret output and age output. Okay, got it. All right, so we're selecting the thing with ID, name, output. Oh, and this is nice. Now we just have to change the words button to output. Secret output, age button, age output. All right, cool. All right, so now we've got everything all set up for ourselves. So everything has been selected, which means we can now interact with it. So what we really want to do is when we click this send name button, we want to get the value from this input field, and we want to output some information here that's going to relate to that. That sounds pretty complicated. So let's give it a shot. Clicking a button and having something happen sounds like an event. And we did something very similar with our soundboard project where we clicked the image and then we had it play a sound. This time we are still clicking something, and then what we're going to do is we're going to have it do other things. So that is going to be the same code that we used before. It's going to be the event listener. So I know it's not down here as part of this project. I don't want to tell you exactly what code you need for what project. It was introduced in the soundboard project, so you'll notice that it's in the soundboard project section of this file. So let me grab this here and add functionality. I'll leave another comment. Staying organized. All right, so here we go. The first one is when we click the name button. So the event that's going to happen is going to happen to the name button, and that's referencing this here. The event type is going to be when we click it. We don't change the word function. It just says we're going to run this function, and then we type our procedure here. So the procedure that we want to do is we want to get the name from this field. So we're creating a new, or actually, let's see. We'll go to our cheat sheet, and it looks like in order to get and store a value from the user using an input field, we have to select that input field. Now, we've already done that. We have to then get the value by creating a new variable and getting the value from the input field. So let's do this here. So I'm going to say let name equal, okay, what was the name of the input field? That element was called the name field. So we're going to go into the name field, which is this spot right here, and we're going to get the value. All right, so now we've clicked the button, we've gone into the name field, and we've gotten the value from it. We've stored that value as their name because the value is the actual thing inside of this. So Carrie or Sky, my dog's name, or Frank, my dad's name, that's the value. And then what we want to do is we want to output that here. And I put this in the cheat sheet. So similar to what we said before is in order to output something, you need to have it selected. We already have it selected. And then what we need to do is we need to use this line of code right here in order to make the text appear there. So the output field that we want to output here is actually name output. So we're going to change that here to name output. And if you remember when we were learning HTML, we called this stuff in between the tags, the inner HTML. So what we're going to do is we're going to say go in between the tags of this element and set the inner HTML to nice to meet you plus name. And I'm using syntax very similar to what we used in the Mad Libs one, where we want to insert the name in, and so we're doing something like this. We're taking the nice to meet you string, we're adding it to the name string, and we are putting a period there. So this is going to take the name output, it's going to make the inner HTML of that element equal to this whole sentence with the code word name, the variable name, plugged in. All right, let's see if it works. So refreshing it here, I'll put Carrie. Nice to meet you, Carrie. I'm trying to read it in a robot voice. Perhaps my normal voice is robotic enough. Let's do Mark Zuckerberg. Cool. So it actually outputs the information onto the page. We don't have any of those annoying pop-ups that we had before, and that's pretty cool. I'm gonna let you guys design the secret one on your own. But I want to show you one more example of how to do this, which is the age one. So let me actually be consistent. Name, functionality, secret functionality. That's going to be the one you do on your own, and it works the exact same way, even though this is a secret field, I believe. We'll see. And then lastly, the age functionality. All right, cool. So for the age functionality, we're going to do something really similar. In fact, I'm going to copy and paste what I did before here. This time, instead of clicking the name button, we're going to click the, what do we call it, the age button. It's still going to be a click event because we're clicking the age button. What we're going to do is we'll let the age equal, if you go into the age field, what do we call that? Yeah, age field, and take the value from that. We'll let that be the age field. Age field, and that's using this code word up here, dot value, so we're getting the value from this input field. Okay, cool, and then name output is that. Okay, awesome. This should be cool, but we want the age output to be you are now their age references the age that we got from that value, from that input field. You are blank years old, and I'm including the spaces here and here so that the number is surrounded by spaces. Let's see if this works. So here we go. I'm not 35. What am I talking about? I'm 33. Why did I type that? You're 33 years old. Awesome. Cool. But I want this robot to be a little bit more pessimistic, so I want to include some extra information. So I'm also going to calculate, on average, when I will die, and use that in the robot. So average American lifespan. 78.5 years. Let's just go with 79. So let years left equal the average, which is 79, minus my age, and that will tell me how many years I have left to live. And the robot is going to tell me this as well. So you are this many years old. You have plus years left, plus space, oh no, plus space in the quotes, to live on average. I hope you make the most of it. I will live forever. All right, cool. Let's see. We're going to make the inner HTML equal to this whole thing. And what you can see is you can put a lot inside of an element. Let's just try that out. 33. Oh, I'm getting an error. Cool. Okay, so when I get an error like this was not an intentional error. Let me see. You can load up something called the JavaScript console, which I haven't shown you before. So if you do view, developer, JavaScript console, it will actually show me the errors that I get, and I was using this to help me debug some of your code. So in line 33, it doesn't know what year left is. Year left is not defined. Oh, look at that. Spelling error. Years left, year left. It's how many years I have left. So now I'm going to leave the console open. You can close it by pressing this button. But oops, I'm not -1. 33, send my age. You are 33 years old. You have 46 to live on average. Oh my God. You have 46 years left to live on average. I hope you make the most of it. I will live forever. Oh my goodness. Typing and talking at the same time. And I notice I have to keep refreshing the page every time I change it. You're 33 years old. You have 46 years left. You have 46 years left to live on average. I hope you make the most of it. I will live forever. Cool. Okay, awesome. Notice that I'm not referencing the name variable. I'm not saying Carrie, you are 33 years old. And the real reason why is the way we get that name, it really only happens inside of this functionality. The name variable only exists inside of this click code. So I don't actually have access to that name variable down here. All right, so you guys are gonna have to program the secret functionality and get the robot to say something creepy. But I hope this video was clear, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.